Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hi everybody, welcome back to Combat Sports UK. It's Taylor Collard here and I'm delighted to be joined by Jacinta the Juggernaut Austin again. Jacinta, how are you doing?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on again.
It's a pleasure, it's a pleasure. So we got a big title fight coming up September 16th, the main event against the German strawweight champion, Katharina Dalisda. So how has preparations been going for the fight? Are we kind of deep into fight camp now? We're just a couple of weeks out?
Yeah, we're very deep in. This is like the height of the peak of hard work at the moment and the peak of dieting and the peak of cardio. So yeah, we're in like the hardest part at the moment. But yeah, it's been a great camp. I feel like because I already knew about this fight off the back of the last fight, I never really switched off in between. Like I had a couple of weeks to slow things down, but especially mentally, I never switched off in between, and that's given me some benefits for this fight. Just staying completely sharp and completely dedicated for. I think I've known about this fight for 12 weeks.
Wow, 12 weeks. It was pretty much made on the back of, because you had the face off in the cage after the fight in Oberhausen. So it was made off the back of that then, really.
Yeah, by the time I got to my chair that night to go watch some of the other fights, the fight poster was out. So I was like, no time for mucking around.
That was quick. Yeah, I remember jumping on social media and they already had it ready to go. So that's incredible. How was that face off kind of, right? How do you kind of take things like that right after the fight? You've just got obviously a massive victory, which we'll go into in a bit more detail. But yeah, how does the mindset go when you've got kind of a challenger jumping straight into the cage in her home country as well? How was your mindset about that?
I had a very strong feeling that like whoever won, me or Sophia, she would be in the cage anyway. Like Oktagon, they love their theatrics and they love to put a bit of a show on. So, and I knew she was going to be there. So I had a strong feeling she'd be in the cage. But that night, like I was, it was my cage that night. I just choked someone out in the first round. Like I was on top of the world. So I felt like she was coming to my cage, and maybe she would have been like a little bit intimidated because she's just like kind of sitting there watching, but I just want to fight. So, I'm on top of the world. So for me, yeah, it was all fun.
And if we just kind of jump into that fight, I watched it a couple of times in the prep for speaking to you today. And there's a couple of things that really jumped out at me. First of all was your size compared to Bagishvili's. Like you looked physically much fitter and much bigger than she did, and it obviously kind of paid off in the grappling exchanges, and also your speed. So really, kind of the more physiological side of the game really jumped out to me. Is that something that going into camp you thought, there is a potential advantage here over Bagishvili with the size and speed? So is that when you put some effort into in the camp going up to the fight?
I knew that she was on the smaller side of strawweight because I'd seen that she had competed the weight class below before. She'd competed at like 48 or 50 kilo, I think 50 kilos not long ago. So I knew she had to be quite small to be making that weight. On the other hand, when I first started my career, like 8 years ago, I was fighting at 60 kilos. So I've come down quite a bit. She's obviously coming up, whether that's to get fights or because she's growing, I'm not too sure. But I think for the division, I'm on the upper end of size and physicality. But I also think that Dalisda is also on the higher end of the physicality for the weight class. So I'm expecting that she's going to be a lot bigger than my last opponent, quite a bit stronger as well.
Interesting. Yeah, just going into that fight, kind of when we spoke in the interview running up and also in the post-fight interview, we talked about your grappling and how kind of underrated it was, and just how patient you are kind of in those exchanges. And obviously the finish came from a really great grappling exchange. You kind of stuffed the takedown and got straight to the back. Just talk us through the finish and kind of the lead up to the finish, and how it was on the night in Oberhausen.
Watching all of Sophia's fights previously, she shoots a lot. She's always open to wrestling. She's always training and wrestling together. She quite often gets girls down pretty successfully. I went in there with the intentions to strike, and we kind of knew that if I hit her with a couple solid shots, then she was gonna decided it's a good idea to grapple. So I was completely ready for that. I knew that once I think like the second right hand landed, I knew that it was coming very soon. She's against the cage, and when you don't like striking, you move to the grappling. And yeah, we've worked on that position because I've seen her shoot the head outside single many times in her fights, and also I watched some of her. She did sambo wrestling for a while. I watched some of her matches, and I know that we noticed that she does the head outside single a lot. So yeah, disadvantage to shooting a bad head outside single is you quite possibly give up your back. So I'd practiced, that sequence in the gym quite a bit. And the only way you kind of get good at not falling off the back in that circumstance is to fall off the back a lot. So we spent a long time breaking down that position in the gym, and exploring how to distribute your weight correctly so that you're not going to fall off the back. And I think it really helped that I had the cage there. We were against the cage. So I had the cage to support one side of my weight as well. And I knew if I really just sort of pressed my hips in for a while, that she would cave under the weight. And we practiced that hand fighting sequence over and over again. I actually even practiced finishing on my left side instead of my right, because a lot of people will first go to defend the right side if you're right-handed. So we practiced finishing on the left quite a bit. And it just somehow all went to plan in that moment.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely paid off. And I think I remember you said in the post fight, we talked about the shots at the beginning of the round. You said they were just annoying. So I think it kind of speaks to your chin and your durability as well, because it was a bit of a war, the first couple of minutes until it got to the fence. And just everything, it was really impressive in terms of the speed and the slickness of which you kind of took into the fight. Looking at Dalisda, she is a bit of a grinder. If you look at her resume, it's kind of decision. There's a couple of finishes in there. Are you kind of anticipating that that's the way she'll try and take the fight, try and make it a bit of a longer stretch, so to speak, more of a grind?
Yeah, definitely. She's physical. She looks always fit. I haven't seen her in any of her fights look gassed or depleted in the later rounds. She's physical, she's fit, she's in front of a home crowd. Her show, this title was set up for her. She's not going to get it, but it was set up for her. I don't think there's any way that she's going to come in out of shape or not ready to fight hard for 5 rounds. So I think she's going to have I don't think she'll come out anywhere near as fast as Sophia did, because this is a much longer fight, and Dalisda is also a lot more calculated than Sophia. I think she's going to try and grind out. Obviously, obviously everyone's trying to finish, but I think that I have more ways to win and more ways to finish than she does. She's going to be very physical. She's going to be very fit, very determined. I'm not too concerned about her power or her grappling. She's a point fighter. She's a decision fighter.
And does that, kind of taking all that in mind, does that change? Obviously, it being a 5-round fight as well, you've also got kind of the travel to consider. How have you, into your training, planned for 5 rounds as opposed to 3? How does it change up kind of for you from a training perspective?
So for a 3-round fight, I always prepare by doing 5 rounds. For not only the cardio conditioning side, but you can't replicate in the gym often the damage that you take in the fight, like the damaging shots. So I always doing an extra couple rounds to try and deplete yourself a little bit more. So for this 5-round fight, I've been sparring 7 rounds, which is quite the adventure. we did it today. 7 5s is quite a long time. And also we completely reconstructed my conditioning program to suit 7 rounds as well. To suit 5 rounds.
Yeah, that's something I noticed on your Instagram. You're doing a lot of kind of speed and agility work, a lot also on the strength and conditioning side. So that's kind of apart from obviously the 7 rounds, that's one of the main changes you made added on to, say, going into this fight.
Yeah, and a lot of extra cardio work.
A lot of extra cardio, yeah. It must kind of suck, right? So 7 rounds of of fights and then a lot of extra cardio,
Uh,
it must suck.
You've almost got to, like in those 7-round spars, you've got to almost just not think about what round you're in, because it can be overwhelming to think about, damn, there's still like 5 rounds left, 4 rounds left. You've just got to concentrate on like what's in front of you, 1 round at a time.
Yeah, and have you been doing it kind of with fresh opponents, or do you do 3 and 3 and then somebody fresh? How do you structure that, or is it the same opponent throughout the whole session?
For that fight replication, like that 7-round fight replication, I use the one opponent. When we break the skills down into like jiu-jitsu or wrestling or striking rounds, I'll use fresh opponents.
And from switching to the mindset, so is there any kind of change in mindset from your perspective about, okay, this is a title fight, it's a 5-round, it's also a main event? You know, is there any kind of, have you had to kind of bring in any other kind of psychological techniques to kind of not get too carried away, so to speak, with the occasion?
The actual occasion, like the fight night, has not given me any anxiety or trouble or pressure. Sometimes the fight camp does. The volume of work I have to do and the amount of hours I have to perform gets me a little bit in a little bit of a spot sometimes. So yeah, I've been doing a lot of mental work, been doing a lot of meditation. With such a crazy schedule, I've been making sure I allocate like a certain amount of time a day to just sit by myself and either read or think or listen to music and just calm myself, bring myself right down. Because otherwise it's a matter of, you're always going from one session to the next. Like you finish one session, got to go home and eat, and then it's the next session. So I've been working very hard on bringing myself down and kind of recentering myself between each session.
And what's the go-to music? Is it Down Under by Men at Work, or something a bit more relaxed?
Not so much. Lately I've been listening to like The Script, I think Billie Eilish. I've been back on my James Blunt train, which I was off for a while, but I'm back on it.
Always good to get the James Blunt
just
shout
music
out
that makes me feel either calm or happy.
Yeah, nice, so nice. And yeah, calm. I think calmness is the key word when you're in those 7 rounds of chaos and you're going through your cardio. Yeah. I think it's really important to balance that. And one thing that also struck me kind of being around you in Oberhausen was how close you are with your team. You know, you guys look like a really, really tight unit. So it'd be great just to hear some background about your team, kind of how long you guys have been working together and everything like that.
Yeah, so I had 3 coaches there last time. I'll have 3 there, the same 3 there this time. So the corner consists of Kung, who is the Vietnamese gentleman. He's the one, I started kickboxing with him more as he was kind of like my teammate. I started kickboxing with him when I started at the beginning, so 8 years ago. So we've been we've been sparring together, pads together, all that sort of stuff while I was kickboxing and Muay Thai. Then you got Anthony, who's like the bigger guy, who I did all my amateur boxing fights with, because he was sort of more just a boxing specialist coach. So he took me through my amateur boxing fights, and then he was in my corner with my pro boxing fight as well. And then you got Alex, who was obviously the lead corner, who's my head coach. Alex is an ex-MMA fighter himself. He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's a pro boxer, and he owns the gym. So his role is, he's head coach. So he takes care of everything. He takes care of all my sparring and my schedule and my partners and pretty much everything. So yeah, we've all just kind of been working in a little group since I went pro, since my pro debut 3 years ago. And I think we all work quite well together. We're all very calm and chill, and everyone gets along quite well. Yeah, we all mesh really well together.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to that fight in Oberhausen, you can see the real emotion on your face when you get the tap, and the way you go over to your team and you all embrace each other. It was a really, really nice moment. You can tell that the hard work that you've talked about here today that goes into it then gets paid back as well. And one thing that you guys did also after the fight in Oberhausen is you went over to Sweden to train in AllStars. How was that
Yeah,
experience?
that was very cool. So the management that was there, who's Josephine, the girl I was training with, who I also fought, her management was there, and we'd be talking back and forth for like since we fought, and we fought in, I don't remember. I can't remember when we fought now. Last year? This year? Anyway, we
Maybe
fought each
two
other.
years ago, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, not I can't remember. Anyway, we've been talking since then about it was a very, very close fight. It was very even. We've been talking since then about training together for our camps, because it's hard for girls to get other girls to train with. So we were talking for a while about doing a trip, and then he messaged us when we flew over, and he was like, "Hey, I know you're fighting tonight, but if you win, would you come to Sweden tomorrow?" And we were like, "What? Like, this is amazing." So first of all, we've got to win, and second of all, we've got to come out unhurt, because I'm not going to take damage and then fly to another country and do a fight camp with someone if I can't, if I'm damaged. So yeah, that was a little bit of a extra motivation to get it done. So yeah, as soon as the fight was done and I had no damage, it was like, all right, we're going to Sweden tomorrow. So we flew to Sweden the next day. We were supposed to go home, but we flew to Sweden the next day, me and my coach, and we spent a week doing Josephine's fight prep with her. So just straight back into sparring, 5-5s, hard fight, like rounds, a war every day. Me and Josephine had our little gym war every single day, which was a lot of stimulation for me, because I'd just come off a fight camp and just come off my fight night and straight back into hard work. But it was really fun. It was really cool to see the facility. The facility is amazing. There's so many high level athletes there. My coach got to do some coaching there with the other fighters, and yeah, it was just good to train with Josephine. She was preparing for a fight on Dana White's Contender Series. So it was really good to work together towards that. Obviously, she won the fight and she's signed to the UFC now, so I'm happy for her. But yeah, we were there training like 4 hours a day there. And yeah, after about a week, the jet lag caught up, the fight caught up, the training caught up, and I was just like, I just need to go home.
I can imagine.
So yeah. So we stayed for a week of hard work, and then then we went home.
Yeah, so it sounds like you got more work out of the post-fight training camp than you did the actual fight itself.
Yeah, so much work. We did so many rounds, and I came out of that week with more damage, like bruised shins, black eyes, because we had a fight like every single day.
Wow. Yeah, I mean there's quite something, and in the, I guess that's a nice little bonus that you had off the back end of that fight. Do you have anything exciting coming up? Should everything go well, September 16th? Do you have a trip planned? What's kind of going to be your downtime after this fight?
We're gonna come back pretty much straight after again. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a few weeks, probably a month or so. I do have another fight on my contract, so I'm not sure what's going to happen after this.
Right.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, based on how the fight goes. But yeah, I really just want to take a month of not thinking about a fight, because like I was saying before, it takes a lot from me mentally. I reckon it takes more from me mentally than it does physically. I'm just so tunnel visioned with it for the entire time I know about it that I find it hard to like do anything else in my life or give anything else in my life, which can be hard on my friends, family, fiance. It can be hard on everyone. So I want to take a month to just not think about a fight, train for the fun of it, because I love fighting, get back into my pure jits. Yeah, just enjoy life, enjoy training without having to fixate on a date.
Yes, if they turn around to you and said, "Hey, Manchester, do you fancy it?" Would you kind of be a bit like, "Oh, okay, let's just pop the brakes a little bit," or would you kind of be a little bit open to that?
When's that?
That is November 3rd. It's probably going to be way too soon, depending how this fight goes.
Yeah. I think we'll just have to see how this fight goes. If it's if it's like it was last fight, then I'll probably turn around and be like, you know what, let's go. if I take damage or I'm not feeling great after it, I'll probably take a little bit longer.
Amazing, amazing. Just final question before we wrap up. What does winning this belt mean to you personally? You know, like you said, you've been in the game about 8 years now, kind of working your way through boxing and now into MMA. What does winning the belt for Oktagon mean to you?
It means everything. This is kind of like my big moment. I feel like this is what 8 years has accumulated to, is this like one big moment you think you're going to get. This is the kind of, I feel like, the final chapter of this like path before I go on to the next path. It's just, we're going to someone else's hometown to fight someone for their own title as well. I'm from such a small place in Sydney, such a small gym with almost no reputation before now. So giving my gym a world title that we went to someone else's home ground to win, like, there's no advantages here. Besides like my skills and the coaches I have, there's no home crowd advantage, there's no hometown advantage, there's no advantage. So to win it and bring it back home to my small little gym in Hornsby, yeah, it means like everything to me at the moment. It's going to be a very emotional night when we win it.
Yeah, definitely fighting for something so much bigger there. I'll just throw it over to you for any final shout outs. I would love a little prediction for how you think the fight might go in a perfect world, round 1 knockout or submission probably. But go ahead, over to you.
I don't know if I will finish her on the feet or in the grappling. I think on the night, I think I said this last time as well, I think that on the night she will give the opportunity to me at some point. I won't have to go looking for it. She'll present it at some point. And I think that point will be a little bit later in the fight, from rounds 3, maybe round 4. So yeah, I do envision a finish. I'm going out there to finish. She's going out there to get a decision win, but I'm going out there to finish it. And I think that's going to happen in round 4.
Amazing. And any shout outs, anything you wanna shout out just at the end here?
Yeah, just give a shout out to my gym, Carry Out MMA Hornsby. The whole gym, we're a small gym, but the whole gym pulls together and bands together for every one of my fights. All the grapplers, all the strikers just contribute however they can. And I just, yeah, probably give a shout out to my new sponsor as well, because they've been supporting me a lot. It's Humble Fightwear, an Australian jiu-jitsu brand. So yeah, I don't think I had them last time, so they're a new one. But yeah, mostly just my gym and my team of coaches that put so much work into my fight camps.
Amazing. So that is Jacinta the Juggernaut Austin looking to bring the belt back to Hornsby, Sydney, Australia, September 16th, 17th, if you are down under, in the main event against Katharina Dalisda, Oktagon 46. Thank you so much for your time, and from everyone at Combat Sports UK, we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. I'll see you on the night.
We will, yes, I will be there. We'll see you on the night.